I suppose that means we're both in over our heads. Always, he said, a teasing glint in his eyes. But with you, I wouldn't have it any other way. Scene 53, Moments of Surrender. Sunlight poured through the thin curtains, casting soft patterns on the wooden floor of Elysia's penthouse. A gentle breeze stirred, carrying the scent of blooming jasmine from the terrace, floating in to embrace the room. Elysia stood in the kitchen, her fingers deftly tying a bundle of fresh herbs, thyme, basil, and rosemary, while the warmth from the simmering tomato sauce filled the air with warmth and richness. Kymani leaned casually against the doorframe, a mere shadow in the soft morning light, watching her. He wore a relaxed smile, his dark skin glowing with a hint of dappled sunlight, embodying strength and calm. You know, if I didn't know better, I'd say you were trying to impress me with those cooking skills. He teased, tilting his head slightly. Elysia looked up, a small smirk creeping across her face. You think I need to impress you? She raised an eyebrow, leaning into that delicate confidence that was uniquely hers. Their eyes locked for an electrifying moment, and the world outside seemed to fade into insignificance. Absolutely, Kymani replied, taking a step closer. I've seen the way you handle negotiations. You're like a shark in a suit. But this, he gestured to the herbs, this is a different kind of mastery. His praise hung tantalizingly in the air, heavy and vibrant. Ah, the ancient art of boiling water, she shot back playfully, mixing the sauce with a wink. It's a talent. Anything can be impressive with the right amount of charm. He took a step forward, his gaze unwavering, a challenge lacing his voice. Elysia smiled, her heart racing in the silence that followed. Here they were, cocooned in a moment that felt both fragile and monumental. Considering your talents, she began, circling around a delicate tension, who's to say I should reveal my culinary secrets? You might steal them. Suit yourself, Kymani replied, hands on the counter as he leaned closer, his voice lowering to a rich whisper. But know this, I'd consider it an honor to be your culinary apprentice. With a quick motion, Elysia tossed a handful of herbs at him, laughing as they landed askew on his shoulder. Apprentice? More like distraction. It's no wonder the sauce is simmering away. Give me some credit. He gracefully brushed the herbs off, a playful spark igniting in his eyes. I'd make an excellent sous chef. Just imagine Kymani and Elysia's kitchen adventures. We could have our own show. Henceforth, we'd be known as culinary legends, throwing herbs like confetti. Oh, because people are just dying to see you brandish a spatula. She feigned deep thought, only to burst into laughter again, and the sound filled the room like music, echoing lightness amid their chaotic lives. It swirled around them, creating a bridge of familiarity and warmth. Kymani moved closer, drawn in by her laughter, the space between them dwindling. Electric. You're right. They'd probably tune in to see my face when I accidentally burn the soufflé. But what would you do if that happened? An anticipatory glint crossed her eyes. Dramatically claim I meant to do it all along, to make a point about the trials and tribulations of cooking, he countered, his brow arching with playful sarcasm. Also, it would give me a chance to charm the pants off you while I eat your perfect dessert. Elysia mock gasped, holding a spatula to his chest as though it were a sword. You dare think you could charm me? Not without a culinary duel, my friend. Is that a challenge? His dark eyes glinted mischievously, tightening the space between them with a magnetism that left her breathless. Maybe it is, she murmured, glancing down at the pot before meeting his gaze again. Time felt suspended as both of them stood in a shared universe that pulsed with possibility. Then Kymani knocked down the invisible wall between them. His voice softened. I don't want any more walls, Ely. Just us. Suddenly, the kitchen felt sacred, alive. Elysia took a deep breath. She could feel the raw honesty in his statement, warm and inviting. Kymani, she started to surrender to the tenderness blooming between them, breathlessly meeting his gaze. He leaned closer, catching the scent of her, a mix of warmth, the herbs, and something undeniably her. Just us, he breathed out, a promise laced with longing. In this bubble far removed from their tumultuous lives, laughter faded into something deeper, more potent, defining their connection, affirming their hope. Maybe in the quiet moments of surrender, they could find solace together. Scene 54. Determined Hearts. The sun hung low over the city, casting a golden hue that filtered through the office windows of Elysia Ndidi's boutique firm, the hum of the city life buzzing below. Elysia sat at her desk, fingers trembling lightly over a sheaf of papers detailing her latest project, a daring new initiative that could, perhaps, save her sinking business. She stared at the words, mind swirling with worries, the ink blurring into shadows of doubt. Kymani Taragon, tall and commanding, stood just outside her office as though he were her silent guardian, the air around him thick with strength and unsung promise. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, casting an appreciative glance towards Elysia. His dark features softened under the warm glow of the sunlight, making him appear regal yet intensely grounded. "Elysia," he began, his voice smooth as honey, "you can't let them in here." He stepped inside, shutting the door gently behind him. "You've worked too hard for anyone to trample on your dreams." Elysia met his gaze, the determination in her eyes stark against the flickering doubt. "I have to fight this, Kymani. I won't back down just because it's hard." She pushed the papers aside, her body leaning forward slightly, an anchor seeking to break away from rocky waters. "What if I fail? Then you live to fight another day," he replied, his tone calm but potent. "Besides, you're not alone in this." A poignant pause filled the space between them, heavy and electric, as if the world outside had faded away. Elysia's heart raced, the weight of Kymani's presence weaving a delicate thread of something unspoken but tangible. She felt seen in a way she hadn't before, her vulnerabilities stripped bare yet respected. "Do you think," she started, her voice barely above a whisper, "that I'm taking too big of a risk?" Kymani's brow furrowed, and he stepped closer, the intimacy of his proximity sending a rush of warmth to her cheeks. "Every great venture is a risk, Elysia. If it weren't, people would do what you do without a second thought. But they don't, because they can't. They don't have your fire." Elysia's breath caught at the intensity in his eyes, a blend of admiration and something deeper, a fierce connection that both scared and thrilled her. "What if my fire just burns everything down?" she mused. "Then we'll build something new together." He reached out, brushing his fingers lightly against her arm, igniting a path of heat where their skins met. "You have a flame within you, and I won't let anyone extinguish it. Not now, not ever." Silence enveloped them, punctuated by the faint sounds of traffic and the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. Elysia considered the space they shared, an unspoken promise of support, a bridge spanning the tumultuous waters threatening to engulf her. She offered a wry smile. "You certainly have a way with words." "It's only the truth." He tilted his head slightly, a playful glint in his eyes. "Besides, it sounds far more appealing than discussing the stock market." Elysia chuckled, a sound like bells chiming in the stillness. "I wish stock markets had more drama. It'd certainly spice up the afternoons." "Leave that to soap operas," he teased, chuckling alongside her. "With all this emotional upheaval, I should probably audition for a role." I could see you as a brooding villain," she said, masking seriousness with mirth. "Perhaps an antagonist with a dark secret?" Kymani straightened, pretending to be affronted. "Me? An antagonist? My secrets are far too charming for that." "Please," Elysia scoffed with laughter, like a cat with a velvet scarf strutting in slow motion. Kymani's rich laughter filled the space, and Elysia couldn't help but feel lighter. "Guess you caught me red-handed. But seriously, you need to trust in your brilliance. The world is yours for the taking." At that moment, something shifted in Elysia's heart. The flickering embers of fear began to forge into flame, igniting a fierce courage she had thought lost. "You really believe that?" "Absolutely." Kymani stepped closer, a hushed earnestness enveloping them. "And I'll be right here fighting beside you, because you deserve this. You are a force." Elysia smiled, something profound stirring between them, an unbreakable bond ready to defy obstacles. Together then, always. And as they stood there, the sparks lit the silence, igniting not just ambition, but an unforeseen connection that could blaze through the darkest of battles. Scene 55. Unyielding force. The air crackled with the intensity of their shared purpose, hanging thick like the aroma of rich coffee wafting from the corner cafe table where Kymani Taragon and Elysia Ndidi sat, their eyes locked in a fierce yet unspoken understanding. The sun filtered through the tall windows, casting ethereal beams against Elysia's dark curls, illuminating her determined features and drawing Kymani's gaze. "What's our next play?" Elysia asked, tucking a stray lock of hair behind her ear, her voice steady yet laced with an undercurrent of worry. A fleeting moment of silence hung between them, heavy with anticipation, before Kymani leaned forward, his left hand grazing the wooden table's rich grain. "I know the weaknesses of our rivals. There's always a way to dismantle their facade." His voice was deep, imbued with conviction. It resonated like the steady thrum of a drum, steadying her nerves. Elysia's brow furrowed. "But we can't just tear them down without ensuring we're stronger. We need a bold move, something that doesn't just react but asserts our dominance." Her gaze was fierce, challenging him to meet her intensity. Kymani leaned back, the corner of his mouth quirking into a smile, a hint of wicked mischief. "Are you suggesting a corporate coup?" Elysia's lips curled. "Well, when you say it like that," she replied playfully, raising her eyebrows as if daring him to feel the gravity of her suggestion. "But hear me out. If they underestimate us, we'll capitalize on that." "Sweetheart, they're already underestimating you." His face turned serious, an intensity that made her heart race. "You're not just a self-made businesswoman, you're a force of nature." As the words settled in the air, Elysia felt a warmth envelop her. It wasn't just flattery, it was the recognition she craved, the accountability she needed. "And what about you, Kymani? How do we keep you off the target list?" A flicker of shadow crossed Kymani's eyes, but he just shrugged it off. "I'm used to setting the stage. This time, we'll script it together." "Together," Elysia echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. She leaned closer, the distance between their hands narrowing until their fingertips brushed against each other, creating an electric pulse that jolted through the air. "Are you ready to tango with the wolves?" Kymani teased, a glimmer of his dark humor breaking through the tension. "Dance? That's your idea of a corporate showdown?" she shot back, laughing lightly. Elysia's laughter broke through the barriers of tension, filling the space with a lightness that felt necessary. "What kind of music are we dancing to? Maybe the sweet sound of financial ruin? More like the West African beats that spelled doom for underperformers." Kymani winked, but then his expression shifted. "But Elysia, you need to trust me. Trust that I'll keep you safe in this." Her heartbeat quickened, not from fear, but sheer anticipation of their relentless journey. "Then we move fast and we strike hard." Kymani nodded, the light catching in his dark eyes. "I'll assemble the intel tonight. We crash their launch like it's a party we weren't invited to." Elysia felt a rush of adrenaline. "Perfect. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve, too." A devilish grin danced on her lips, and Kymani chuckled, his laughter rich as it echoed off the cafe's walls. Just as Kymani was about to speak, the cafe door swung open, and a rush of winter air gusted in, causing a few napkins to flutter dramatically. Their moment broke, but the flame of focus ignited anew as they both turned to see a looming figure in a tailored three-piece suit, a smirk unsettlingly familiar. "Kymani, you've been busy," the stranger said, leaning nonchalantly against the doorframe. "Maybe you should get a hobby, Malik," Kymani retorted, visibly tense, yet humor flickered at the edges of his tone. "And miss out on all this drama?" Malik shot back, his gaze flitting between them with a knowing, almost smug delight. "I'd hate to disappoint you, darling." Elysia interjected quickly, her pulse racing at the sight of Malik, who embodied a threat cloaked in charm. Kymani's posture straightened further, a low growl rising in his chest. "This is none of your business, Malik." "Isn't it? We're just getting started." Malik smirked, his eyes lingering too long on Elysia, sending a shiver of recognition and defiance through her. Kymani's protective instincts flared, his voice low yet fierce. "I'd suggest you back off, unless you want an uninvited dance." Elysia felt the air shift, thickening with tension, their connection pulsing between them like an unyielding force, ready to unleash chaos with unwavering intent. "Let's make some noise, then," Elysia declared, her voice slicing through the moment, embodying the flame of their alliance as Kymani clasped her hand, their resolve solidifying amidst the brewing storm. Scene 56. The calm before the storm. The sun hung low in the sky, a lazy ember glowing against the horizon, casting a golden hue over the manicured gardens of Elysia Ndidi's penthouse office. She stood by the window, a sea of documents sprawled across her expansive mahogany desk, a fortress of ideas and strategies that were beginning to feel like quicksand. The air was thick, almost electric, filled with the fragrant scent of blooming jasmine outside, a stark contrast to the heavy anxiety coiling tightly around her chest. Elysia, Kymani Taragon's voice cut through her thoughts, smooth yet rumbling, like distant thunder. He approached, his tall frame filled the doorway, the light framing him like a painting. You know, if you keep staring out the window like that, the curtains might start to feel neglected. She looked over her shoulder, an involuntary smile dancing on her lips, a fleeting moment of levity before the storm. Well, someone has to keep an eye on the impending doom. Besides, I think the curtains like me just fine. He chuckled, the sound rich and warm, filling the room with a hint of comfort. You know that's not what I meant. We have a lot to get through today. He stepped further into the room, close enough for her to catch the faint scent of cedarwood and something uniquely him, a mixture of confidence and danger. A storm brewed in the distance, dark clouds rolling in, a palpable hint of rain in the air. As the wind picked up, casting the indoor plants into a mild frenzy, Elysia turned fully to face him, the laughter fading as quickly as it came. You think we'll be ready in time? Preparedness is my middle name, Kymani replied, though his humor was laced with unspoken gravity. Speaking of preparation, have you finalized the marketing strategy? The launch needs to go off without a hitch. She shrugged, the weight of her decisions weighing heavily on her. Let's just say I've been deflecting distractions, like my current romantic situation. Elysia pressed her lips together, a quiet storm of frustration behind them. That ought to be a real boost to properly reflect my ambition, right? Kymani's expression shifted, a shadow passing over his handsome features. Elysia, you can't let him control your narrative. You've built so much. You're not just a businesswoman, you're a force. She inhaled sharply, the encouragement both empowering and suffocating. But what if my past keeps chasing me? I don't want to become what everyone expects me to be, just a woman burdened by her relationships. Then let's shift the narrative, he suggested, stepping closer. We've fought off greater adversities. You're not alone. You have me. Dark clouds loomed ominously, thunder rumbling softly in the distance as if echoing the tension simmering between them. Electric and undeniable. You say that, but with the launch looming, your secrets threatening to shake my world, and... Kymani moved even closer, folding his arms, his eyes narrowing in focus. What's the worst that could happen, Elysia? We get swept away in a storm of calamity. Or maybe, he softened, leaning in slightly, find a way to meet the gale head-on, together? In the pause that followed, the universe felt stretched. Every moment hung suspended, charged with a magnetic pull. Elysia could feel the heat radiating off him, the proximity amplifying each breath they took. There was an intimacy in their shared vulnerabilities, an unorthodox connection forged in chaos. You know, if I went down, I would drag you with me, she said, that hopeful laughter she always kept under wraps bubbling to the surface. His gaze held hers, steady and unwavering. Then I hope you're a good swimmer, Elysia, because I plan to dive headfirst into whatever storm awaits. Underneath the looming clouds, as the first droplets of rain splattered against the window like eager applause, thunder boomed with impending drama. Elysia felt that stirring, that undeniable connection, growing stronger with each pulse of tension and laughter shared. I have one condition, she said, a teasing glint in her eye. Oh, and what would that be? If this takes a nosedive, we get tacos. They're cheaper than therapy. He laughed, the sound igniting warmth in the cool room. You have yourself a deal, but no mopey cloud moping. We conquer this together, rain or shine. Elysia grinned, the clouds racing outside no longer fazing her. Then grab a pen. We've got a storm to weather. Scene 57, surrounded by shadows. The air hummed with tension as the golden light of late afternoon seeped through the high windows of the conference room, casting long shadows that danced across the polished mahogany table. Elysia Ndidi sat with her back straight, her fingers drumming a nervous rhythm against the surface. Across from her, Kymani Taragon leaned casually, exuding calm confidence, yet the tension in his jaw betrayed a wariness he couldn't suppress. Do you think they know? Elysia asked, her voice steady, though a hint of uncertainty tinged her words. Kymani's dark eyes locked onto hers. They suspect something, but they thrive on chaos. We need to play it just right. He tilted his head slightly, his voice dropping just low enough to invite intimacy. And by play it, I mean we've got to outsmart them, together. Together, Elysia repeated, a small smile breaking through the weight on her heart. If by together you mean I distract them while you swoop in like some corporate superhero. Kymani chuckled, the sound deep and warm. If only my cape wasn't in the dry cleaners, perhaps I could get a refund on my Avenger membership card. He leaned closer, the scent of sandalwood and musk wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. But honestly, Elysia, you have the strength to handle this. You've built something incredible. Don't you forget that. Her smile faded as she leaned back, crossing her arms defensively. Even so, I sometimes wonder if I'm just pretending. What if they find out I'm out of my depth? The financials they're depending on me to lead. Kymani's gaze softened and he moved slightly closer, his presence anchoring her frail confidence. You're not out of your depth. You're just navigating through the storm. Everyone else is just as clueless. They're faking it too. He paused, searching her face for understanding before adding, even I don't know if I'll come out unscathed on the other side of this. I always thought you had it all figured out, Elysia breathed, realizing how desperately she craved his assurance, as if it would solidify her own resolve. Hardly, Kymani replied with a wry smile. My life is like a high-stakes poker game, lots of bluffs and double dealing. You'd make a better player if you saw this as a game, Elysia. Elysia tilted her head, half annoyed and half moved by his mischief. Is that your secret? Just blend in and keep a straight face? Kymani grinned, his charm revealing itself anew. Oh, you'd be surprised how many people can't read me, can you? Their playful exchange danced around an invisible barrier, deepening an intimacy born from shared vulnerabilities. Elysia hesitated before leaning closer, her heart racing inexplicably. You think I can read you? You're harder to decipher than a Da Vinci painting. And yet, here we are, he replied, lacing his fingers through hers, sending a current, igniting warmth through their interconnected palms. Two players in a game where losing means more than just money. Elysia's breath caught. What if we're both terrible at this game? Then we'll cheat, Kymani said with a wink, tilting his head closer. Just as their moment began to escalate, the door creaked open, interrupting the delicate balance between tension and hope. A junior executive poked her head in, interrupting their shared space and causing Elysia to withdraw quickly, her surprise revealing a hint of color in her cheeks. Sorry to interrupt, but the board is... She hesitated, taking in the sight of Elysia and Kymani too close for corporate comfort. Oh, I didn't realize you were, strategizing. Elysia cleared her throat, fumbling for her professional composure. Just discussing our approach to the upcoming meeting. You should join us. Kymani's eyes glinted mischievously. Or you could go take a coffee break. We wouldn't want to distract from today's pressing matters, right? His jovial tone lightened the fading tension. The executive blinked, then laughed nervously. Right. I'll just be outside then. She retreated, the door closing behind her. As silence enveloped them once more, Kymani turned back to Elysia, his demeanor shifting slightly, seriousness bubbling just beneath the surface. Before we dive into this, Elysia, I want you to know. What? She coaxed, eyes wide, the beat of her heart thrumming in sync with the rising stakes that had just shifted between them. He hesitated, then decided to let the curtain fall, voice low and purposeful. I'd take a bullet for you in this game, Elysia, whatever it takes. With a heartbeat's pause, she whispered, and I'd stand right beside you. As he searched her gaze, the world beyond their sheltered bubble faded away, their bonds strengthening against the encroaching shadows. Scene 58, The Last Stand. The corporate summit pulsed with activity around Elysia Ndidi, who stood before her polished glass podium, her hands flat against the sleek surface, heart racing. The summit had begun like any other, yet as the talking heads droned on, the murmurs in the audience began to fester like a wound. In the crowd, glances flickered toward her, some impressed, others accusatory. Elysia could feel the weight of expectations, her own voice stifled beneath the tension wrapped tightly in her chest. Kymani, she whispered, catching his gaze across the rows of seated VIPs. He stood near the back, tall and vigilant, with an air of casual confidence that unsettled her nerves. The corner of his mouth twitched, as if he sensed her anxiety, and for a moment, The chaos of the summit faded away. As Elysia shifted in place, she noticed the frost weighing heavy in her thoughts, the fears of past failures lurking like ghosts at the edge of her resolve. Silence, she thought, inhaling deeply, finding safety in the dip of his dark brown eyes. He had a way of anchoring her, as if laying a foundation beneath her as she faced the world. The atmosphere crackled between them, a blend of anticipation and something far more profound. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, raising her voice, though it trembled slightly, "today we stand on the precipice of a new era." A sharp crack echoed, slicing through her words, and like a curtain lifted on a dreadful play, chaos erupted. Men rushed in from the side doors masked, voices muffled and low like predators closing in. Elysia's heart dropped. "Kymani!" she shouted, her body instinctively drawing back, her instincts kicking in. His eyes were fierce, filled with purpose as he broke into motion, weaving through the scattering audience, his commanding presence demanding attention. "Everyone stay calm! Get down, Elysia, stay behind me!" As bodies collided and gasps filled the air, Kymani reached her within heartbeats. "Do you trust me?" he said, urgency lacing his tone. Elysia simply nodded, feeling the adrenaline spiking through her veins. "Good," he whispered, his voice low and fierce, bringing her close for just a moment, a tether amidst the turmoil. "I won't let anything happen to you." Before she could respond, he was leading her through the panic-stricken crowd, their fingers entwined, electricity surging between them. The loud shouts of confusion set the stage for their escape, and Elysia found herself drawn into Kymani's steadying aura. "What's your plan?" she asked, trying to match his calmness. He glanced over his shoulder, lips curving into a faint grin underlined with seriousness. "Get to the exit. I'll clear the path." A shout erupted nearby, and Kymani's stance shifted. He turned, blocking her view, muscles coiled with tension. "No! Get back!" He barked at an approaching figure, a man lunging forward with something glinting in the light. But Kymani was faster, swirling into action, a storm of grace and strength. Elysia's breath caught, and she realized she was witnessing the strength he kept hidden. The way he moved felt fierce and protective, shadows dancing around him like phantoms. "Elysia, now!" he shouted, and without a thought, she sprinted toward the side exit, throwing open the door just as he took down another assailant. Outside, the air was fresh but buzzing with the lingering threat, the hum of their survival. She turned back just in time to see Kymani disarm another figure, his movements fluid yet deliberate. "Go, I've got this!" But she was frozen, captivated by the way he commanded the moment. "Kymani, wait." His gaze turned fierce as he glanced back. "Trust me, I'll be right behind you." The crack of a gun echoed from the hall, and the sound ignited Elysia's legs. She shot back through the door, joining him in the fray, her heart pounding. "You're crazy!" she exclaimed, dodging a misdirected fist that flew her way. "Yeah, but you love it!" he shot back, and despite the chaos, her chest swelled at his recklessness, the joy tucked snugly within a moment of terror. As they fought side by side, each exchange filled with unspoken promises, Elysia glanced sideways at Kymani, her heart racing not just from the danger, but from what simmered just beneath the surface between them. "You're more than I expected," she managed to say, breathless. "Likewise," he replied, a grin breaking through the tension. The moments elongated, everything around them fading as if they were the only ones remaining in the chaos. And then, in a heartbeat, a split second that stretched into eternity, time hung palpably. Kymani's hand brushed against her cheek, his thumb tracing a line along her skin, grounding her, even as tension crackled around them. "Elysia." His voice dropped to a whisper, tangled with an emotion too deep for the moment, and she felt the world shrink until it was just them, surrounded by chaos yet blissfully cocooned in each other's presence. With fierce determination igniting her spirit, Elysia closed the distance, pressing her lips to his for just an instant, a controlled chaotic spark that ignited the air around them. In that charged kiss, she felt the promise of everything they were fighting for, and just as suddenly as it began, they broke apart, breathless but resolute. "We really need to go," she urged, racing back into his protective embrace with renewed spirit. "Let's end this, shall we?" Kymani replied, locking eyes with her, a shared understanding enveloping them. Together. As they charged into the fray, hearts pounding, adrenaline pulsing like a lifeline, Elysia knew just one thing as she dashed beside him. Whatever awaited them, they would face it together, unyielding. "Whatever happens, I've got your back," she vowed, and the warmth of her words wrapped around him, igniting the fire within. Scene 59. Burning bridges. The air crackled with tension in Elysia Ndidi's office, the sleek glass walls reflecting the vibrant cityscape beyond, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within. The towering skyscrapers loomed like silent witnesses from the outside, but inside the mood was anything but calm. Elysia pressed her palms against the desk, her fingers dancing over the polished surface as she steadied her breath. This was it, time to confront the very adversaries who had threatened everything she had built. Kymani Taragon paced just outside her office, the faint sound of his footsteps tapping a rhythm of concern on the hardwood floors. Encountering him so close, yet feeling 100 miles apart, ignited a fire of insecurity within her. He had faced down foes more significant than she had ever known, yet here she was, seeking his strength while grappling with her own weakness. "Elysia," he called softly, stepping into the threshold of the office. She looked up, and her heart raced. "I can't keep pretending I'm not terrified. They're not just attacking my business, they're trying to destroy me." Her voice trembled, grounding her own emotion in the brave but tumultuous sea of her confrontation. "Kymani, this isn't just about the company anymore. It's personal." Her gaze turned toward the window, the world outside bright against her darkening thoughts. She needed to reflect her fortress-like exterior, something Kymani always seemed to manage with effortless grace. But Kymani stepped closer, his eyes keen and perceptive. "No one can destroy you but yourself, Elysia." A slight edge laced his otherwise smooth tone. "These people don't know you. They only see what they want to take." "And how would you know?" she snapped, anger pouring into her frustration. "What do you think you are, a savior?" His expression shifted, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through his stoic facade. "I'm just a guy who knows how to fight dirty." He chuckled lightly, though the humor felt forced, strained under the weight of their tension. "However, I can't fight for you unless you let me." "Let you?" Elysia took a deep breath, her chest tightening. "I don't need to be saved, Kymani. I need to fight, and I can't do that if I'm worried about keeping you safe too." "Fighting without your heart is no fight at all," he said, the intensity in his voice making her body heat. "You deserve so much more than that." A shake of her head pushed back the rising emotion. "Someone has to believe in me. I thought you were that someone." She leveled her gaze at him, vulnerability clotting in her throat like stone. "But maybe I was mistaken. Don't you dare turn this into my fault." Kymani's body froze, his dark eyes narrowing. "We're in this together, Elysia. I'm here, whether you realize it or not." Just then, the door swung open, and the uninvited presence of Malcolm, Elysia's serpentine business partner, slithered into the room. His demeanor exuded an irritating blend of confidence and entitlement, and the air immediately shifted as if combative forces suddenly collided. "Well, well," he smirked, surveying the two standing close together. "Is this a private moment, or can anyone crash the party?" Elysia shot him a glare, the fire in her chest reigniting. "What do you want, Malcolm?" He stepped closer, invading the intimate space she had shared with Kymani. "I thought I'd stop by to express my concern, with all these ridiculous rumors swirling about your company's future." His voice dripped with faux sympathy. "It must be terrifying to know you're on the brink of ruin." Kymani stood straight, exuding an unyielding presence. "How about you back off? You don't get to toy with her like she's some pawn in your game." With a metallic chime of laughter, Malcolm stepped further into the chaos. "You're quite protective of her, aren't you? But why? Just another little side mission for you, Kymani." Elysia shook her head, the weight of the situation suffocating. "You think this is funny? Shaming my business, my life?" Malcolm chuckled, reveling in the strain. "Life's a game, Elysia. You've turned it into a tragedy." "Enough!" Elysia fired back, her voice sharp, shaking her finger at him. "You think you can scare me? I'm not afraid of you." The tension in the air sculpted their dialogue like clay, molding various forms of anger and sadness. And in that moment, Elysia felt a warmth radiating from behind her, Kymani's presence a strong, steady anchor. "Let me help you, Elysia." Kymani said, his voice igniting a flicker of trust. Together then, she whispered, as Malcolm's laughter faded into the background noise of the city, a sound she was finally ready to drown out. In that charged moment, her heart thudded not just in fear but in newfound courage. Together. Scene 60. Love's Resilience. Elysia stood in the kitchen, the soft golden light illuminating the shadows beneath her eyes. She whisked together vibrant, ripe strawberries and a spoonful of sugar, lost momentarily in the mundane task that felt weighted with significance. The air was thick with the scent of honey and sweetness, but her thoughts spun like a whirlwind around the corporate chaos that seemed to close in on her. Kymani leaned against the kitchen doorway, his tall figure a mixture of grace and strength. The late afternoon sun framed him like a halo, but his expression was anything but serene. "You know you could just buy store-bought jam, right?" he teased, arcing an eyebrow playfully. Elysia looked up, her blue eyes glittering with mock annoyance. "And deprive you of the chance to witness my culinary genius?" She flicked a tiny bit of strawberry juice in his direction, and it splattered against his crisp white shirt. "Now that's just rude," he replied, feigning offense, yet laughter curled on the edges of his lips. He took a step closer, the faint click of his shoes on the tile cutting through the playful banter. "You're going to need to find a new shirt after that. It's vintage." "Oh, please. I've seen how you dress." "Vintage is just another word for old," she shot back, mixing the strawberries with more zeal. "Like someone I know who keeps talking about the good old days." "Touché," he chuckled, his eyes sparkling. The humor in the air momentarily masked the heavy shadows that loomed over them, shadows filled with threats of corporate sabotage and dark secrets. Kymani stepped closer, the tension in the room shifting as his demeanor sobered. "We can't let them take your company away from you. You fought too hard." Elysia paused, her fingers resting on the bowl, vulnerability flickering in her gaze. "Every day feels like a battle, Kymani. You don't understand. I feel like I'm holding the weight of the world on my shoulders." Her breath caught, a tremor in her voice. "What if I lose everything?" He closed the distance between them, his voice low and steady. "You won't. You're stronger than you think. We'll face them together." A warmth radiated from him, the mix of his confidence and sincerity grounding her in the moment. She searched his face, the turbulent emotions swirling inside an unsteady sea. "But at what cost? You're putting yourself on the line because of me. I can't let that happen." "Ely, I choose to be here. I wouldn't be anywhere else." The intensity in his gaze pierced through her doubts. "And besides, my life is a chaotic ride of banks, blackmail, and bad guys. This feels right." "Right? You must have a different definition of right than most people," she quipped, trying to lighten the tone, yet the weight of their reality hung between them, heavy and bittersweet. "It's a blast, really," he said with a mischievous grin, breaking the tension for a moment. "Your idea of a blast is more like an explosion," she shot back, a soft laugh escaping her lips, which quickly melded into the fabric of the room, pulling them closer. With a sudden, serious tilt of his head, Kymani said, "I have something I need to tell you." The air around them shifted once more, knotting her stomach. "What is it?" she asked softly, her whisper tinged with both anticipation and dread. Kymani took her hand, his fingers enveloping hers, igniting warmth that laced through her entire being. "When I said we'd face this together, I meant it. I'm not letting you go through all this alone. You're worth the fight." Elysia felt a rush of recognition. The depth of his words reverberated inside her, and for the first time, she allowed herself to lean into the fragile cocoon of hope. "Together, then." "Together," he affirmed, his voice rich with conviction. She brought her other hand up to cup his face, feeling the warmth of his skin beneath her touch. Their eyes locked, an unspoken promise suspended in the air. At that moment, a soft chime echoed from her phone, breaking the intimacy they had carved out for themselves. The moment felt fragile as Elysia's attention flickered to the distraction. "Just a moment," she murmured, pulling back slightly, but the warmth of his hand lingered on her skin like a brand, igniting a fierce sense of resolve within her. As she glanced at her phone, Kymani whispered, "No matter what happens next, remember this." She turned back to him, breathless, their world momentarily distilled into clarity, reminding her that love had the resilience to weather every storm. "Together," she echoed softly, her heart racing with a newfound certainty of what lay ahead. Scene 61, unmasking the enemy. The sun slipped beneath the horizon, casting long shadows across Elysia Ndidi's office. The sleek glass walls reflected the glow of the city lights, yet inside, a storm brewed. Elysia stood at her desk, her fingers drumming a hurried rhythm against the polished surface. She fingered the corner of a file, her mind tangled in the revelations of the past week. Secrets too heavy to carry, threats that clung like smoke. Kymani Taragon leaned against the doorframe, arms folded, the lines of his figure sharp against the fading light. He was an enigmatic presence, tall and commanding, but the tension in his frame hinted at an unfolding tempest. "You can't keep running from this, Elysia," he said, his voice low, rippling with a defiance that matched the flicker of his eyes. Elysia shot him a glance, venom lacing her tone. "And what would you know about running? You're not the one with your reputation on the line, or your life for that matter." The words hung in the air, fragile and charged. Kymani uncrossed his arms, striding toward her, his presence shifting the dynamic. "I know what it's like to see everything you've built come crumbling down. I faced it last year when Barrett tried to take everything from me. I'd rather swallow glass than let that happen to you." For a moment her eyes softened, but the vulnerability stirred up the past, memories of her ex's betrayal creeping in like weeds in a garden. "You don't understand what I've sacrificed for this company," she shot back, her voice quivering. "I understand enough," he countered, his tone sharpening again. "What I don't understand is why you refuse to trust me now when I've put everything on the line for you." Elysia's heart raced. A dance of anger and desire swirled within. "Trust isn't a switch I can just flip, Kymani. It was stripped away, and now—" Her breath caught as she met the fierce intensity of his gaze. "You don't know how hard it is to believe again." "Then let me show you." Kymani closed the distance between them, his voice a barely contained intensity. "I'm standing here, risking everything. What else do you need from me? I didn't come into your life to destroy it, Elysia." She clenched her jaw, fighting against the pull of his words. Then, uncharacteristic warmth bloomed in her chest, nudging aside the defenses. "And what if trusting you means losing everything?" "Then it means that everything has a price." Kymani's forward motion stopped as reality cloaked them both, the air between them thick with unsaid words. "It's not just about you anymore. We're in this together." Just as the vulnerability began to shift the atmosphere, the door flung open, and Cassia, Elysia's assistant, strolled in, her phone wedged between her ear and shoulder. "Elysia, we need to talk about the press release." "Not now, Cassia," Elysia snapped, her flustered tone startling her assistant mid-sentence. Cassia raised an eyebrow, glancing between the two. "Are you fighting? You know, I really could use the drama for my blog. CEO caught in passionate dispute, exclusive inside details." Kymani turned to Cassia, a grin slowly unfurling. "I'd suggest writing about the smooth fancy coffee that's about to be missing from the break room if Elysia keeps biting heads off." "Keep your fancy coffee. I'd prefer a bit of milk," Elysia shot back, trying to suppress a smile. Cassia chuckled, sensing the rising tension of a fondling squabble. "See," Kymani said, showing a lighter side, his eyes dancing. "Even she agrees. You need to cool down." Elysia's face softened, and as frustration gave way to levity, she pulled up a stool, contemplating their simmering arguments. "Fine, let's take a breather. But don't think I'm done with you yet." With a sidelong glance, Kymani approached a bit closer, a teasing lilt in his voice. "I wouldn't dream of it. You might just need someone to carry the weight of the world when you're absorbed in your business, after all. Or someone to remind you to put on deodorant," Elysia quipped, the corners of her mouth finally lifting into a teasing smile. "Touché," Kymani laughed, the sound melting away the heavy layer of tension, but the unspoken words clung to the air. In that moment of unexpected joy amid thunderclouds, they found unity renewed. If only they could unmask the enemy outside as easily as they learned to trust each other. Scene 62, the test of fate. Elysia crossed her arms tightly, her fingers pressing into the soft fabric of her blouse as if it could shield her from the gravelly truth Kymani had just laid bare. "You think you can just waltz in here and spin this tale of deceit and shadows, and I'll just take it at face value?" Her eyes flashed with defiance, but the tremor in her voice gave away her uncertainty. Kymani leaned against the edge of her sleek glass desk, his dark eyes steady and piercing. The dim office light reflected off the polished surfaces, casting a glow that made him look almost ethereal. There was a somber heaviness in the air, but he held a quiet confidence that had always captivated her. "It's not a tale, Elysia. It's reality. A reality where everything I hold dear is at stake, including you." He pushed himself away from the desk, standing tall, a protector ready to shield her from all the chaos swirling around them. Caught in his gaze, Elysia felt her resolve begin to thin. The way he spoke her name, thick with urgency, sent a shiver down her spine. "You can't save me from everything, Kymani. Sometimes it's better to steer clear of the storm." She swallowed hard, her throat dry, as she searched for something to anchor her. The scent of polished mahogany and fresh coffee mingled in the room, but she felt adrift. "And yet, you're here, standing in the eye of that storm. Your life is on the line, Elysia," he replied, his voice firm yet laced with tenderness. His fingers grazed the edge of her desk, leaving a trail along the smooth surface that had seen many late nights of work and worry. "I can't bear the thought of losing you. This isn't just about business." Elysia's breath caught as Kymani stepped closer, closing the distance between them. The pressing tension surged like an electric current, drawing her in. The pulse of his presence was both exhilarating and terrifying. "Are you telling me you're willing to risk everything for me?" she asked, raising an eyebrow, heart racing in spite of herself. He paused, his expression shifting into something softer but resolute. "I've already made the choice. It's you or nothing." His gaze darkened, brimming with unspoken promises she dared not entertain. "Don't play the hero with me," she admonished, though her voice lacked any real bite. Despite her best efforts, she couldn't ignore the fluttering in her stomach. His proximity was intoxicating, and the world outside her office faded into insignificance. The sunlight streaming through the large windows bathed them in warmth, entangling them in a moment suspended outside of time. Kymani's voice dropped, raw intensity sharpening every syllable. "A hero? I'm complicated, Elysia. There are pieces of me you'll never fully understand." His honesty hung between them, incense thickening the air, a contrast to the sharp scent of danger that lingered just beyond their bubble of intimacy. "Complicated, huh? What's that meant to mean? Are you saying I should have my guard up?" Elysia quipped, attempting to deflect the seriousness with humor. Her clenched jaw softened slightly at the corner of her lips, the weight of the air lightening with the playful edge that always existed between them. "Honestly? Probably. But then again, I know what it feels like to stand on the edge of everything you want and being afraid to reach for it." His gaze held hers, the gravity of his past intertwining with the palpable magnetism of the present. The challenging cadence of their conversation pulsed around them, building an intimate symphony that only they could hear. "And here I thought you were just some charming corporate shark." Elysia smirked, her heart pounding louder than her racing thoughts, infused with the new understanding of the shadows that haunted Kymani. "Guilty as charged, but I'd like to think I'm more than just my business acumen." He stepped even closer, the energy sparking like crackling fire beneath their skin. "For you, Elysia, I'd be willing to drown." Breathless, Elysia stepped backward until her back pressed against the cool wall. The way he was watching her ignited something buried deep. It was vulnerability, the kind she had kept hidden for far too long. She felt guarded, exposed, wide open in front of him, but it was intoxicating. "Maybe we could." She took a breath, cutting off her words just as Kymani closed the space, cradling her face between his hands, strong yet gentle. His fingertips brushed her jawline, igniting every nerve in her body. A heartbeat lingered in the silence, a delicate moment pregnant with possibilities. Caught in the tide of his earnest gaze, Elysia finally leaned into him, surrendering to the warmth that washed over her, pulling them both into the familiar chaos of the unknown. And then their lips met, soft at first, a tentative exploration packed with unvoiced longing and necessity, swelling until it engulfed them, fading the world around them to nothingness. Scene 63. After the smoke clears, the morning sun streamed through the large windows of Elysia's office, illuminating the wreckage of their recent corporate battle. Papers lay scattered across the once tidy conference table, a battleground marked by frantic negotiations and whispered threats. Elysia stood amid the chaos, her fingers gently tracing the scattered documents, as if trying to pick apart the remnants of betrayal still clinging to the air. Kymani entered the room, his presence commanding as always, though today it was softened by an undercurrent of urgency. "I can't believe they thought they could just walk all over us like that," he said, a wry smile playing at the corners of his lips as he bent to collect the papers. The hint of mirth simmering beneath his bravado was contagious, and Elysia felt her mood lift, if only slightly. "Welcome to corporate warfare," Elysia replied with a sarcastic edge. "When they realize they're losing, they play dirty." She glanced at him, noting the way the sunlight reflected off the deep richness of his skin, the way he moved with a grace that belied his imposing stature. She could feel the tension in her shoulders slowly unwinding, a welcomed release in the aftermath of chaos. "We don't need to play their games," Kymani said, standing straight with a stack of reports in hand. "We'll forge our own path, together." His gaze caught hers, an electric charge sparking between them, sending a shiver down her spine. With that simple statement, he folded the papers, setting them aside as if they were no longer obstacles but simply stepping stones to something vast and unknown. "Together?" she repeated, teasing the word out as if it were a delicate piece of glass. "I can't afford to lose everything again, Kymani. I just rebuilt after the last disaster." Vulnerability washed over her without warning, uncharacteristic and raw.